How do you navigate a transfer window on Football Manager 2023? Do you do all your business at the start of the window, or do you wait until deadline day? We're going to test out both and see which one is more successful. So we're going to test out how to navigate through a transfer window. I have started a save with Brighton, where I'm going to try and do all of my business on the first couple of days of the save, and then I'm going to basically go back to the start of that save, simulate forward through to the end of the transfer window, go to deadline day and try and sign the same players as we did at the beginning of the season. I'm not going to go through and sign and do contracts and everything. I'm just going to try and negotiate the transfers for about 8 players. I think I've got on this list down here, which I'm going to shortlist at the start of the game. And I'm cycling through now, doing the negotiations. I'm talking after the fact, just to give you a bit of awareness. Right, so the 8 players I've picked cover basically a range of different scenarios. So they are, some of them are transfer listed, some are near the end of their current contract, and others are just young and potentially undervalued. So we're going to try and go through a few different players. We've listed 8. We're going to go through them, going to negotiate their transfers at the beginning of the season, at the beginning of the transfer window, and then again at the end. And then we'll do a like-for-like comparison. Hopefully we can get all 8 players on both scenarios. Maybe we won't. We'll see. I haven't done the second part of this experiment just yet. I've just done the beginning of the transfer window, and then we'll go through the deadline day one as well. So we're going to go through players. So we've got Enner Valencia, who is basically quite old and readily available for transfer. Alfredo Morelos from Rangers, Ben Brereton Diaz. These are both players who are towards the end of their current contracts. Ezri Konsa, who is young. Benoit Badiashile, who is also very young and potentially undervalued, but he's just gone to Chelsea, so can we actually buy him or not? Maybe this one's a loan one we need to do. Max Aarons, another young player. Donny van der Beek is someone who is transfer listed, and Ivan Toney again is someone who is potentially at the end of their contract, and maybe we can get them early on in the transfer window. Maybe we have to wait to deadline day. We shall see. So we're going to negotiate through all of these players now. I'm not going to do it live. We're cycling through in the background. You can see the pre-recorded footage of me clicking away on Football Manager through all of these negotiations. We're going to try and get the best value deal we can. It's not going to be all up front, which will probably be cheaper if we did it all up front. We're going to try and work like you would in a normal transfer window. Do a big chunk up front and then some in installments later. Try and work the system a little bit that way. And we'll use the same techniques later on in the video as well. When we get to deadline day, we'll do a big totalizer of how much we've spent in both scenarios and whether we can get all the players. Subject to contract agreements, obviously. As I said, I'm not going to go through and negotiate all the contracts because that's contract negotiation. That's not transfer window navigation. That's a separate video. You can probably do one of those later on the channel. We'll see that about how to negotiate contracts and what you need to put in the contracts to get the players you need. So as you can see, we're cycling through negotiations in the background. I'm going to go through and list all of the final values we've got for all of the players. So in the first half of the video, before not deadline day, at the beginning of the transfer window, it's taken a few negotiations for some players, but we've managed to settle on fees for all of them. Some key ones to pick out. We've got Enner Valencia for 4 million, probably already seen that. Alfredo Morales, we've got 8 million up front, rising potentially to 10.5. Ben Brereton Diaz, we've got 5 up front, rising to 19, potentially a little bit more than you would want to spend on Ben Brereton Diaz because his contract is up at the end of the season, but we shall see whether that's a good deal or whether we can get a better deal towards deadline day. And Ezri Konsa, we've got 12.5 up front, rising to 32.5. Benoit Badiashile, Chelsea have accepted an offer. I don't think he's going to join us because he's just joined Chelsea in game, but 25 million up front, rising to 65 million at the end of all of the add-ons. Potentially better off trying to go for a loan deal for a player like him who has just joined his club but isn't in the first team just yet. But we shall see whether that works out. Max Aarons, we had to do a couple of negotiations for, but 12 million up front, rising potentially to 35. Donny van der Beek, who's on the transfer list at 29 million. We've done 15 million up front and got to the 29 million after instalments. And then Ivan Toney, we've negotiated for £25 million, rising potentially to £43 million. So in total, we have spent £106.5 million up front, potentially rising to £238 million. So obviously that is a bit bigger than Brighton's admittedly large transfer budget at the beginning of the season. That's why we picked Brighton. They've got a big old chunk of money to spend in the first transfer window. So you're probably going to have to, if you want to buy all of these players for these prices, sell some other ones. But as we said, players like Badiashile probably won't be wanting to join us because they've just joined their actual club. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to finish negotiating in the background. That's going to tick through whilst I've just done all this talking. Hopefully we're about at the end of that now. We're going to jump forward to deadline day, go through the same negotiation process. Again, it'll start playing now. You can see what me negotiating in the background, and then we'll do a like-for-like comparison on all of the players, and then do a big totalizer at the end, and then I'll give you some top tips on what to do in all of these scenarios, whether you should wait, whether you should go to the end of deadline day, or whether you should do your business early on in the window. Right, we're negotiating deadline day transfer deals now in the background. You've probably seen a bit of yellow appear on the screen on my recording behind my head. So we'll go through again the same process. Try and sign all of the same players, but we might not be able to. We might have already, for example, met a player who has signed a new contract and does not want to change his club. So there's no point trying to negotiate him. So players like Alfredo Morelos have signed a new contract at Rangers. He is not going to be available. Neither is Ivan Toney, for a spoiler in a few seconds when he comes on screen. But we are going to be able to get a few better deals. So we'll run through, obviously the negotiations are happening again behind me, not in real time. I apologise. It would be a really long video if I did it in real time. It would probably be over a half an hour. But we're going to try and do it quickly, still give you the same experience and give you some tips at the end. Remember to hang around till the end of the video for those tips. So we've got some deals done. Obviously 2 players we've already mentioned. We haven't been able to get any sort of negotiation for because they just signed new contracts in that month and a half, 2-month period between the beginning of the window and deadline day. So Morelos and Toney off the table. But Enner Valencia we've managed to sign for a cheaper 3.2 million. So that's a good start. Similarly, Brereton Diaz hasn't signed a new contract at Blackburn. He's said he's going to leave at the end of his contract. We've got him for 5 million up front still, but the final total is 10 million rather than 19. So we've saved ourselves a bit of money by waiting there. Then we move on to Ezri Konsa, who we have got for, well, exactly the same. We've done a slightly more up front. So it's 15 million now up front, 2.5 million more than we did before. But the overall 32.5 million for the total transfer remains the same. So I'm going to say that is about the same. We've put more up front, but got the same value in the end. Again, similarly with Bariashvili, we've got 25 million with 65 million in total, but they are now open for a loan deal. So we probably would do him on loan, get a loan for him on deadline day because they weren't open to it at the beginning of the window. So that's something to keep an eye out. If you're trying transfers for players who have just changed clubs but aren't in the first team yet, try and get them on loan. Be a good avenue to try and get them permanently further down the line. Right, we'll move on to Max Aarons, and he has cost us more money on deadline day. It's 15 million up front, 38.5 in total. So it's jumped up by a couple of million. But in the opposite direction, Donny van der Beek is the same up front, 15 million up front, but his transfer value, transfer listed price is no longer 29 million, it's 18 million. So overall, there's a bit of a saving on that front. Still the same 15 million outlay up top. So that, for the 6 players we've signed, cost us 78.2 million initially, with 167.2 in total. So comparatively, if we get rid of the 2 players we didn't manage to sign on deadline day, we have spent an extra just under 5 million up front, but managed to save ourselves 17, 18 million, or 16 million if I can do my sums quite quickly, in total. So we've done a little bit more up front to knock off a bit in the total after all of the instalments. So that gives us 2 players who we completely lost, 3 whose value, whose cost came down, 1 that went up, and 2 that went about equal. I think we could probably say 1 was equal, 2 went up. Depends how you want to judge the Ezri Konsa deal. So we paid a little bit more up front, and it was the same overall transactions. But there you go. So basically, some up, some down, some lost, some level. Pretty much filled the whole gambit of scenario. So what I'm going to suggest as our top tips: if the player is transfer listed and not already under offer from another club, wait. If you don't need them immediately, wait until deadline day. The club are eager to sell. The price will drop. You will get better value. As you can see from Donny van der Beek, he was worth 29 million to Manchester United at the beginning of the window, only 18 by deadline day. So you can save yourself some money if you're not in a massive rush and you can wait the extra month. So definitely wait if they are listed and not under immediate threat from someone else. If another club does put in an offer, obviously don't wait until deadline day because they won't be there. If the player is near the end of contract, I'm going to say monitor the situation. Make sure you keep an eye out for them getting offered a new contract by their club. If they do that, you want to get in quick before they accept that offer, otherwise they will be gone. If they aren't in a position where they are likely to accept an offer, wait until transfer deadline day. The club are going to lose them for free if they keep holding on to them. So try on the deadline day. If they haven't signed a new contract, you will either wait them out and get to the point of getting a free, or you'll get them for much cheaper than you would if you'd gone at the beginning of the season. Maybe even wait until January if they've decided they're leaving on a free. But the longer you wait in that scenario, the more potential for other clubs to come in and steal them from you. And if they are young and undervalued, I'm going to say you go as early as you can, whether that's at the beginning of the window or deadline day or January, whatever that is for the specific player. Go as early as you can, because the likelihood is if they're good and undervalued, their form will make their value go up. So if they play well and are playing consistently, you're going to pay more for them the longer you wait. So get in as early as you can. Obviously, if they've just changed clubs, try and get them on a loan with maybe a fee built into the loan, whether it's a potential or a mandatory future fee. Try and get them on loan if you can't get them permanently. But definitely, if they are young and undervalued and only going to get more expensive, it makes sense to get them as early as possible. So they're the three scenarios that I've gone through, and I'm giving you my recommendations and key tips. I want you to let me know in the comments if you think I've missed something, or if you think my advice isn't correct and you disagree. Let me know in the comments. Get some constructive discussions going, and we'll have a look whether the people in the comments agree with my tips or not. And whilst you're there, before you click comment, well no, after you click comment, click on this video, because it's worth watching. Is it this video? Here. This video here. Go and watch it. See you on the next one.